The sun dipped below the tree line. A biting wind swept across the snow-covered expanse of the national park. Four friends, bundled in thick winter gear, trudged through the deepening snow. They were searching for their designated campsite, a haven promised on their tattered park map. The woods grew quiet as dusk settled. The silence was broken only by the crunch of their boots on the frozen ground. A sense of unease began to creep into their hearts. They finally stumbled upon their campsite. Relief, however, quickly gave way to confusion. It seemed they were not alone. A plume of smoke still rose from the remnants of a recently extinguished campfire. The ghostly outline of a vacated tent stood nearby. Supplies lay scattered about, as if abandoned in haste. Puzzlement turned to concern. Why would anyone leave a campsite in such disarray, especially in the dead of winter? One of the friends, Mark, bent down to examine a snow-dusted backpack. He pulled out a leather-bound journal, its pages stiff with cold. He brushed off the snow and opened it. The handwriting inside was hurried, frantic. The writer spoke of strange noises in the night, footsteps circling their tent, whispers carried on the wind. They mentioned a shadowy figure glimpsed through the trees, a feeling of being constantly watched. As Mark read aloud, a shiver ran down the spines of his companions. The dying light painted the surrounding forest in shades of grey and black. The wind sighed through the trees, sounding eerily like a mournful cry. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. They tried to dismiss the journal entries as the ramblings of an overactive imagination. But something about the desolate campsite and the oppressive silence of the woods filled them with a creeping dread. They decided to stay, hoping to find some explanation for the abandoned campsite in the morning. As darkness fell completely, they built a roaring fire, seeking comfort in its warmth and light. But the unsettling feeling persisted. Every crackle of the flames, every sigh of the wind seemed to amplify the stillness of the surrounding woods. They huddled closer to the fire, sharing stories and jokes in an attempt to lighten the mood. But their laughter felt forced, a brittle defense against the growing unease. The darkness beyond the firelight seemed to press in, filled with unseen eyes. As the night wore on, the strange occurrences began. They started subtly. A rustle in the undergrowth, the snap of a twig dismissed as the wind or a stray animal. But soon the noises grew more distinct. Footsteps crunched in the snow, circling their campsite slowly, deliberately. Whispers seemed to emanate from the darkness, too low to decipher, yet undeniably human. Panic began to set in. They took turns keeping watch, their eyes scanning the impenetrable darkness beyond the firelight. Their imaginations ran wild, conjuring shapes in the shadows, faces peering from behind the trees. The journal entries, once dismissed as fantasy, now echoed in their minds, taking on a terrifying reality. Sleep, when it finally came, was filled with unsettling dreams. Visions of a shadowy figure stalked their subconscious, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. They woke with a start, hearts pounding, the chilling whispers of the wind echoing in their ears. The fire had burned low, casting flickering shadows that danced menacingly in the pre-dawn gloom. They spoke little, their faces drawn and pale in the cold morning light. The weight of the previous night's events hung heavy in the air. The once inviting forest now felt oppressive, filled with unseen dangers. They packed their gear quickly, eager to escape the confines of the cursed campsite. But as they turned to leave, they made a chilling discovery. Fresh footprints, large and distinctly humanoid, marred the pristine snow at the edge of their campsite. The footprints were not there before. They circled their campsite, silent sentinels in the snow, a stark reminder that they were not alone. Fear, primal and consuming, gripped their hearts. They were being watched, They were being hunted. They broke camp quickly, packing their gear with a frantic urgency. The heavy silence of the forest pressed in on them, amplifying their fear. They spoke in hushed tones, their words lost in the vast emptiness of the woods. The journal, now a tangible symbol of their growing dread, weighed heavily in Mark's pack. As they retraced their steps through the snow, they stumbled upon an old park ranger station, its wooden walls weathered and grey. A rusty sign, barely clinging to its post, identified it as the Black Creek Ranger Station. They decided to seek shelter within its dilapidated walls, hoping to find answers, or at least a temporary respite from the unseen terror that stalked them. Inside, they found dusty maps and faded photographs adorning the walls. One photograph, its edges yellowed with time, caught their attention. It depicted a group of smiling hikers, their faces full of life and adventure. The caption below identified them as a group of friends who had vanished in the park decades earlier. Their disappearance remained unsolved, a chilling mystery that had haunted the park ever since. They found a logbook tucked beneath a pile of dusty papers. Entries from years past spoke of strange occurrences in the area. Unexplained noises, fleeting glimpses of a shadowy figure, a palpable sense of dread that permeated the woods. One entry, scrawled in a shaky hand, mentioned a local legend, a vengeful spirit they called it, said to roam the forest, seeking retribution for a past wrong. The ranger station, meant to be a sanctuary, now felt like a prison. The stories they had read, the photographs they had seen, all pointed to a sinister truth. They were not alone in the woods. Something else was out there, something ancient and malevolent, and it was aware of their presence. The wind howled outside, rattling the old windows of the ranger station. The shadows within the room deepened, twisting and contorting into menacing shapes. They huddled together for comfort, their eyes darting nervously towards the windows, their ears straining for any sound from the outside. The journal, now open on the table before them, seemed to pulsate with an eerie energy. Its pages contained a jumbled account of the missing hikers' final days, their growing fear, their desperate attempts to escape the woods, their chilling realization that something was hunting them. The writer spoke of a presence in the woods, a darkness that permeated everything, a malevolence that chilled them to the core. The entries ended abruptly, leaving their fate unknown. But one final sentence, scrawled in a desperate hand, sent a chill down their spines. "It knows we're here." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken terror. They were no longer just reading about the experiences of others. They were living them. They knew then that they had to leave the ranger station. Its decaying walls offered no real protection from the darkness that lurked outside. They had to make their way back to the main road, back to civilization, before it was too late. They moved with a newfound urgency, their fear palpable in the hurried rhythm of their steps. The forest seemed to close in around them, the trees like silent sentinels watching their every move. The snow fell steadily, muffling all sound, creating an eerie silence that was broken only by the pounding of their hearts. They pushed onward, their breaths forming clouds of condensation in the frigid air. The sun, a pale disk in the overcast sky, offered little warmth or comfort. They were losing track of time, their sense of direction disoriented by the relentless snowfall and the growing panic that gnawed at their edges. And then they saw it, a figure standing motionless in the distance, shrouded in a cloak of swirling snow. It was tall and slender, its form shifting and wavering in the falling snow. They stopped, their hearts pounding in their chests, their eyes transfixed on the apparition. It was the figure from the journal, the shadowy entity that haunted these woods. They were its prey now, caught in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Adrenaline surged through their veins. They broke into a run, their packs bouncing against their backs, their lungs burning with exertion. But the figure did not pursue, it simply stood there, watching them, its presence a suffocating weight on their chests. They pushed themselves harder, their legs aching, their lungs screaming for air. The forest seemed to stretch on forever, a labyrinth of snow-laden trees and treacherous shadows. The air grew colder, biting at their exposed skin, numbing their fingers and toes. They stumbled and fell, the icy snow seeping into their clothes, chilling them to the bone. They struggled to their feet, their bodies racked with shivers, their hope dwindling with each passing moment. They were lost, hopelessly lost in a frozen wasteland with an unseen entity stalking their every move. They huddled together for warmth, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. The silence of the forest pressed in on them, suffocating, absolute. They were out of time. The cold was seeping into their bones, slowing their thoughts, stealing their strength. They closed their eyes, surrendering to the inevitable. A wave of warmth washed over them. They opened their eyes to find themselves huddled around a roaring fire, a steaming mug in their hands. Confused, disoriented, they looked around. They were in a cozy cabin, the walls lined with bookshelves, the air thick with the scent of pine and wood smoke. An old woman sat across from them, her eyes twinkling with amusement. She wore a simple dress, her grey hair pulled back in a bun. She smiled kindly at them, her wrinkled face a roadmap of time and experience. "You gave us quite a fright," she chuckled, her voice raspy with age. Wandering so far into the woods in this weather, they stammered, trying to explain their ordeal, their voices hoarse and weak. They spoke of the abandoned campsite, the chilling journal entries, the shadowy figure in the woods. The old woman listened patiently, a knowing smile playing on her lips. When they finished, she nodded slowly. "Ah, yes," she said softly, "the forest remembers. It holds on to things, especially pain and suffering. It doesn't easily let go." She looked at them, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and understanding. "You stumbled upon something you shouldn't have, something best left undisturbed." The old woman led them to a window overlooking the snow-covered expanse of the forest. "This land has seen much sorrow," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind. "It craves peace, not vengeance. It was trying to warn you, to protect you. They didn't understand. They wanted to ask her what it all meant, but the words caught in their throats. The old woman turned to them, her eyes filled with a wisdom that transcended words. "Go home," she said softly. "Forget what you saw here. Let the forest rest." They left the cabin, their minds reeling, their bodies still shivering from the cold. The forest was silent now, the snow falling steadily, covering their tracks, erasing their presence. They didn't speak as they made their way back to the main road. They didn't need to. The forest had spoken, they had heard its message. They never returned to the park, haunted by the memory of that night. They carried the secret of the forgotten camper with them, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks at the edges of civilization, a testament to the enduring power of the wild. The forest had offered them a glimpse into its heart, a glimpse they would never forget. And as the years passed, they learned to respect its silence, a silence that spoke volumes about the mysteries that lie hidden beneath the surface of the world.